Why does an island nation hide its best coastline on islands few reach? The answer starts at a rocky headland in the Hauraki Gulf. New Zealand's Southern Alps run 450 kilometers down the South Island. Aoraki/Mount Cook is their tallest peak at 3,724 meters. Maori called it Aoraki, cloud piercer. The mountain anchors a national park where glaciers feed rivers that braid across wide gravel valleys. Below the snowline, introduced lupins flower pink and purple each summer near Lake Pukaki. The lake holds a turquoise tone from rock flour ground out by glacial ice. Climbers come here for technical alpine routes among the highest peaks in the Southern Hemisphere. Glacial meltwater carries a heavy load of pulverized rock, giving the Huka River its pale blue color. The river sprats across a wide gravel bed, splitting into braided streams that shift with every flood. These braided rivers are a hallmark of the Southern Alps. The Tasman Glacier is New Zealand's longest, stretching 23 kilometers down the eastern side of Mount Cook. Its meltwater fills a lake where icebergs calve from the glacier tongue and drift until they melt. The ice can glow deep blue where it is dense and old. The Remarkables are a jagged mountain range rising sharply above Lake Wakatipu, one of the South Island's deepest glacial lakes. The range takes its name from the sheer cliffs that drop from the summits toward the valley floor. Queenstown sits on the lakeshore below, a town of about 16,000 residents that has become the country's center for adventure tourism. Yachts and steamships share the cold water, while the peaks above hold snow much of the year. Lake Wanaka lies in the Otago region, fed by glacial melt from the Southern Alps. The lake is about 45 kilometers long and reaches depths of 300 meters. Sheep graze on the tussock hillsides above the shore, and the town of Wanaka clusters at the southern end. The settlement has grown from a farming service center into a destination for hiking and skiing, though working farms still border the town. A solitary willow grows straight out of Lake Wanaka, its trunk half submerged in the shallows near the town shore. No one planted it there. The tree has become one of New Zealand's most photographed landmarks, drawing visitors who wade in to stand beside it. Roy's Peak rises 1,578 meters above Lake Wanaka, and the track to its summit is a steady climb of about 5 hours. Hikers follow a dirt trail through private farmland before reaching the open ridge, where the view opens across the lake and the peaks of Mount Aspiring National Park to the west. Milford Sound cuts 15 kilometers inland from the Tasman Sea, walled by cliffs that rise more than 1,200 meters from the water. Rainfall here averages over 6,000 millimeters a year, feeding hundreds of temporary waterfalls that cascade down the rock faces after each storm. Fiordland National Park surrounds the sound, protecting one of the largest areas of temperate rainforest in the Southern Hemisphere. Along the access road, lupins line the valley floor in summer, their purple blooms standing against dark bush and gray river gravel. Mitre Peak rises 1,692 meters directly from the water of Milford Sound, one of the world's highest sea cliffs. On calm mornings, the dark peak mirrors itself in the still surface of the fjord. Clouds cling to the summit and drift across the face throughout the day. Sterling Falls drops 151 meters from a cliff face covered in dense, temperate rainforest directly into the fjord. The waterfall never runs dry, fed by the constant rainfall that keeps the forest on the cliffs permanently green and dripping. The Kaikoura Coast is where the seaward Kaikoura Range meets the Pacific, with mountains rising to 2,600 meters within kilometers of shore. New Zealand fur seals rest on the rocky platforms along this coastline, gathering in colonies that have grown since the species was protected in the 1970s. A narrow road threads between the cliffs and the sea, and the cold current offshore supports sperm whales, dolphins, and the crayfish fishery that gives the town its name. Abel Tasman National Park sits at the north of the South Island, a coast of golden sand beaches, small forested islands, and clear tidal water. Native rainforest grows right to the shore, where waterfalls spill over moss-covered rock and silver ferns line the walking tracks. Cathedral Cove is a sea arch on the Coromandel Peninsula, cut through white rock by waves over thousands of years. A sandy beach sits inside the arch, reachable on foot or by kayak. The Coromandel coast runs about 85 kilometers along the North Island's eastern side, a stretch of rocky headlands, offshore stacks, and small settlements. Kayakers paddle between the rocks in calm weather, while the bush-covered hills behind hold remnants of gold mining from the 1860s. Mount Ruapehu is the North Island's highest point at 2,797 meters and one of New Zealand's most active volcanoes, last erupting in 2007. The Rotorua region sits inside a volcanic caldera. At Te Puya, steam vents and boiling mud pools release heat from magma still moving beneath the surface. Huka Falls is where the Waikato River, New Zealand's longest, squeezes through a narrow basalt gorge. The river drains Lake Taupo, the country's largest lake, and the constriction forces a torrent of turquoise water through a gap only 15 meters wide. Kayakers and jet boats run the rapids below.
Auckland is New Zealand's largest city, with about 1.7 million people, roughly a third of the population. The Auckland Harbour Bridge spans the Waitemata Harbour, linking the city to the North Shore. The harbour is dense with sailboats, a sign of the local boating culture. Auckland sits on a volcanic field of about 50 dormant cones that rise as parks above the streets.
Wellington is New Zealand's capital, a compact city of about 215,000 people, wrapped around a harbour at the southern tip of the North Island. The Wellington cable car has carried passengers to the Botanic Garden since 1902, climbing through tunnels above the city rooftops.
Queenstown was settled in the 1860s during the Otago Gold Rush. Today it runs on tourism, with a population of about 16,000 that swells with visitors year-round. Bungee jumping, jet boating, and skiing drive the local economy. The town sits on Lake Wakatipu, a glacial lake that runs 80 kilometers between mountain ranges.
Christchurch was planned as a garden city, and its botanic gardens occupy a loop of the Avon River in the city center. Stone bridges cross the water among rhododendrons and mature oaks planted in the 1860s. Beyond the gardens, the central business district was largely rebuilt after the 2011 earthquake. From a rocky headland in the Hauraki Gulf to these South Island vineyard rows, the land decides what grows and what endures.